What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over DC Rebirth Aquaman, and we do pick up with Volume 2. That does pick up at the tail end of Volume 1. Now remember, when it came to Aquaman so far in this series, he is trying to build relations between Atlantis and also the surface world. Now at first, it did look like that he may be able to actually achieve that goal. But unfortunately, some things happened here and there where a war almost broke out between Atlantis and also the surface world. Now, the main reason why the war almost happened because a Navy ship was attacked. And currently, there were some people who did belong to Atlantis pull off the attack to make it look like Atlantis was trying to do another attack against the surface world. And so a war almost broke out, but luckily Aquaman was able to calm down both sides. Now, when it came to Clark Kent, Superman, he did tell Aquaman, you better prove that Atlantis is actually innocent. You better handle this new situation, because if you don't, me and the League will come down there and handle things ourselves. And so this is Aquaman saying there's somebody out there trying to discredit Atlantis to make sure Atlantis will not be able to build relations with other countries from the surface world. But the question is right now, who will go out of their way and do that? Now we do lead into a new problem coming up for Mera. And that problem would be more the idea that Mera has to go through different kinds of trials. And the reason why, to prove that she is worthy to become Queen of Atlantis, but to also be worthy enough to marry Aquaman. Now we have to remember, when it comes to Mera, she belongs to a particular group known as the Zebels. Now the Zebels were actually banished away from Atlantis. And of course, when she came back, she fell in love with Aquaman. But because she is the princess of that particular group, the people of Atlantis do not really like her. And so they're trying to see if she actually is worthy to marry Aquaman, to become the Queen of Atlantis. Now, with all that being said right there, you also have Aquaman get very upset about the idea that his people want to put his bride or his future bride through different kinds of trials to prove that she is worthy to be his wife or be worthy to be Queen of Atlantis. But then you have Aquaman be confronted by Captain Murk. Now, when it comes to Captain Murk, he is the leader of a particular military group in Atlantis known as the Drifts. Now, in our last video, he went over to the Navy shipwreck to see if did Atlantis actually attack this ship. Now, unfortunately, every single piece of evidence that he found, it pointed right back over to Atlantis, which also gave America more fuel to go after Atlantis. And so now it's Aquaman saying there's somebody out there who is trying to frame their own people to basically start a war with the surface world. And we have to stop that before innocent lives are lost. Now we have to jump over to Black Manta. Now when it comes to Black Manta, we have to remember that he was one of the many problems that Aquaman had to deal with back in Volume 1. Also, Black Manta is kind of like the arch nemesis for Aquaman. Either way, in our last video, once you had Aquaman stop Black Manta, we were left to believe that he would go to prison. That did not happen. Instead, he was broken free by a new group known as Nemo. Now, when it comes to Nemo, their main goal is to take over the world, but starting with the ocean, because if you are able to control the ocean, you are able to control the rest of the world. The problem is the forces of Atlanta are in most parts of the world oceans. And so, of course, it gave Nemo a lot of problems when it came to taking over the oceans. Either way, when it came to Black Manta, they were going to bring him in to help them out to take out Atlantis and Aquaman. Now, when it comes to Black Manta, he hates the idea of working for other people. He loves the idea of being the one in charge. And so when it came to Black Manta, he said, I killed off your boss, the Fisher King, which he did in our last video. And he's saying, now I'm in charge of Nemo. And so now it's time for us to get to work. Now we do see Aquaman going to pay a visit over to a certain prisoner, and that would be Wraith. Now when it comes to Wraith, he is the leader of a particular group known as the Deluge. Now when it comes to that group right there, their main goal is to, well, try to make sure Atlantis and the surface world will not be able to build any kind of relations at all. Now the reason why, because a lot of people when it comes to Atlantis do not like the surface world. Now when it comes to Wraith, the leader of that group, he also does not like Aquaman as well. And the reason why, because Aquaman is not trying to do any kind of old traditions that go on in Atlantis with kings. And so unfortunately, it's Wraith saying, my main goal is to make sure that Atlantis and the surface world will no longer be able to have any kind of relations at all. But on top of that, I want to make sure I am able to remove you as king because you do not understand the old ways. Now, when it comes to Aquaman, he's trying to tell Wraith, somebody is trying to use your group's name as a way to start a war between Atlantis and the surface world. Now, when it comes to Wraith, he's all like, who cares? Because I know Atlantis would be able to wipe the floor of the surface world. But you have Aquaman say, no, you don't understand. Somebody from the surface world is trying to use your name as a way, as an excuse to come down here and destroy Atlantis completely. And so here you are thinking that what's happening is really good, but in reality, it could possibly make things a whole lot worse. Either way, you have Wraith tell Aquaman that he does not know anything at all that can help our hero figure out who is trying to discredit Atlantis. Now, after you have Aquaman stop talking to Wraith, he is confronted by Mera. Now, when it comes to Mera, she does inform Aquaman that she wants to go through the trials to prove not to herself, but really to the people of Atlantis that one, she really does love Aquaman, but two, she'll be a great queen for the actual city. And so she tells Aquaman that she'll go ahead and go through the actual trials with the mothers of Atlantis. And I'll explain more of that later on. Now, getting back over to Black Manta, Blackjack, his assistant now, and also Nemo, we kind of find out that Black Manta wants to kind of reveal this secret group to the world. He wants to make sure when that happens, they sit in a power position where they can actually begin the process of taking over the world. Now remember, they're trying to take over the ocean, but to do that, they have to get rid of Atlantis. Now this is the moment where we kind of find out who actually attacked that Navy ship, and that was Nemo. They had attacked that ship and pinned it on Atlantis, and so that right there shows that Atlantis is actually innocent. Now, here's the thing, because Black Manta knows that Aquaman is working very hard to prove that Atlantis is actually innocent, and so when it comes to Black Manta, he wants to use one of their secret projects to keep Aquaman busy long enough so that he is able to begin to do more plans down the road. And so we have to jump over to a different part of the ocean. Now, when we do, we kind of find out that the weapon that Black Manta, Blackjack, and also Nemo was talking about is some kind of monster that's currently walking towards Atlantis. And so we already know this creature is going to attack Atlantis to keep Aquaman and the people of Atlantis busy enough so that Nemo, Black Manta, are able to continue on with their evil plans. And so getting into the second chapter, we do pick up with Mera arriving at the Tower of Widowhood. Now, when it comes to the Tower of Widowhood, this is where Mera would have to do the different kinds of trials to prove if she is worthy to marry Aquaman or to be worthy enough to become Queen of Atlantis. Now, at the Tower of Widowhood, she'll be going through the different trials alongside with the mothers of Widowhood. they'll be the ones who are going to give her the different trials to see if she actually is worthy. Now, here's the thing, because Mara belongs to the Zebel group that was banished from Atlantis, well, when it comes to the mothers of widowhood, they're going to look at Mara differently than the rest of the people of Atlantis. And so as the trials go on, they're going to believe even more that she is not worthy to be able to marry Aquaman. Now, we do jump back over to Aquaman, and when we do, we currently have Aquaman just trying to deal with different kinds of king business that he has to do. Now, unfortunately, that is when you do have some guards walk over to Aquaman to inform him that right now, currently, they are detecting some seismic waves nearby Atlantis. And of course, that is very concerning. They could also think this could be an attack done by America. And so you do have Aquaman and some members of the army go with him over to see where these waves are actually coming from. Except when they do arrive, they find the creature that Nemo had sent here to, well, what seems to be to wreck Atlantis. Now, when it comes to our hero and also fellow soldiers, they do try their best to actually fight against the creature. But the thing is, the creature just continues to get back up over and over and over again. Now, there is a point where you do have Aquaman think that he did a good blow to the actual creature that should keep the creature down for the time being, except he realized the creature is beginning to heal up, which means this is going to be a long fight for our hero and his fellow soldiers. Now, getting back over to Mara, she does hear the horns that basically say, hey, something big is happening right now in Atlantis. And so for Mara, she wants to leave the Tower of Widowhood to go help out Aquaman to fight against this creature that he has no idea what it is and how to actually stop it. Except when it comes to the mothers of the tower, they tell Mara, you can't leave. You must stay until you have proven that you are worthy or basically unworthy to be married to our king. Now, when it comes to the mothers of the tower, they even say that unfortunately, when it comes to Aquaman, he's young. He's reckless. He's not actually realizing that you may not be worthy enough to be married to him. Because again, you are a Zebel. You are a traitor. Your entire group was banished from Atlantis many years ago. Now, hearing those words, it really did bother Mara a lot, because it's really more of her trying to prove that one, she is worthy, but two, even though she is a Zebel, she's still a great person. And so now she has no choice but to stay here and just pray that her husband to be will be able to take down the creature by himself while she stays here to get more approval of the idea of being worthy. Now, getting back over to Aquaman, while he's fighting against this creature alongside with some of his soldiers, unfortunately, they are struggling a lot. Now, while you have our hero and his team trying to take down the creature, this is when we kind of find out that this is the Shaggy Man. Now, when it comes to the Shaggy Man, it was a machine creature that was actually made by a scientist known as Dr. Ivo. Now, when it comes to this creature, it has the ability to adapt. That is why earlier when it came to Aquaman, when he gave it a powerful blow thinking it will keep it down, the wound was healed up just like that, because it was made to adapt and keep going. And matter of fact, this is not the first time the Shaggy Man had arrived. Matter of fact, back in, I want to say, the New 52, he went in a standstill against the entire Justice League. Now, it's just Aquaman by himself to fight this creature this time. Now, when it comes to the military of Atlantis, they realize the Shaggy Man is not trying to just go to Atlantis and wreck the place. He's trying to pass through Atlantis, cause some damage, but his actual goal is somewhere else. And that is when they kind of find out the creature is trying to head over to Amnesty Bay, the original home of Aquaman when he lived on the surface world. And so as we dive into the third chapter, we do pick up with Aquaman and the forces of Atlantis trying their best to fight against the Shaggy Man. But the problem is, though, after the creature is attacked by some kind of attack, he heals up, but he's able to adapt to that last attack, making him stronger and stronger just after being hit a few times. Now, with all that being said, this creature is heading towards Amnesty Bay, and that is a huge problem because if this creature does arrive, and matter of fact, it does, it's going to look really bad on Atlantis because we have to remember that America and Atlantis are not on good terms at the moment. And so with this creature popping out of the water, you're going to have America believe that this was an attack being done by Atlantis. And so it's Aquaman saying, we have no choice but to go ahead and help out the surface world. But on top of that, I want to help out Amnesty Bay because that was the city I grew up at when I was living on the surface world. And so I have to protect my hometown. Now, when it comes to the people of Atlantis, they're all like, nah, man, forget the surface world. But again, it's Aquaman saying, this is somebody trying to use this creature as a way to make us look even worse than we are, so America and other countries can begin to work together to hopefully get rid of us. So no, we have to step in and protect the city from this creature. And so we jump back over to Mera real quickly. Now, when we do, it's really more of Mera still going through the different trials to prove that she is worthy. But while going through the trials, this is just another example of the mothers of the tower trying to say that they don't believe that Mera is actually worthy to marry Aquaman. Now, this is why, because remember, in our last volume, Aquaman was trying his best to bring a relationship together between Atlantis and also America, and then trying to move on to other countries around the world. But unfortunately, his goal between America and Atlantis did not work at all. And the problem was, though, when it came to Aquaman, he was trying to find a peaceful way to show that Atlantis is not trying to attack America, that Atlantis is trying to work with America. But when it came to Mera, she did not try to do that in a peaceful way. And matter of fact, she went out of her way to break out Aquaman out of prison to say that his words are not going to work at all, which almost led to a huge war between the two nations. And so you have the mothers of the tower say, no, we don't believe you are worthy. Even though you're trying to help your man achieve his goal, your way almost cost him his goal. How in the world do you believe that you are worthy? How do you know that what you did would actually work, or possibly made things worse between you and him, but made things worse for also the city as well? But getting back over to Aquaman, you have Aquaman still fighting against the beast, the creature in the middle of his hometown, Amnesty Bay. But again, no matter what he does, the creature is able to adapt. It heals up, adapts, and gets stronger and stronger, making it even harder for Aquaman to actually win the battle. Now, you would say, you know what? Why hasn't he called in the Justice League? Because if this creature had actually fought the entire league to a standstill, that means you need the league right now to help you defeat a creature like this. But we get our answer through Merc. Remember, Merc is one of the captains of one of the many different military forces of Atlantis. But when it comes to Merc, he gives us our answer by saying, I know why you haven't called the league yet, because you're trying to prove something. You're trying to prove that you are not that nobody on the Justice League. You're trying to prove that you can actually handle different kind of problems on your own, that you don't need the help of the rest of the league to basically deal with something like this. But you have Merc say, why though? Like, I get it, but at the same time, why now? Because right now, you could possibly die. Right now, your city could possibly get wrecked. You have chosen the wrong time to try to prove something to the rest of the league, who is currently not even probably watching you at all. So why not go ahead and just call for help? Because if you don't, you're gonna die, or possibly your city will be wrecked. And so it's just Aquaman trying to prove that he is that hero, that he is a hero who can actually fight on his own and does not need the help of Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman. Now, when it comes to Aquaman, he does find a way to actually defeat the creature. And that way would be more of him using his Justice League card as a way to teleport the creature away. Because around this point in time, when it came to the Justice League, they were living in the Watchtower, or their base was the Watchtower that would float over the Earth in space. And so the only way to get up there was to be teleported by different kinds of technology. And so when it came to Aquaman, he used his card that is technically used to teleport him up there, to teleport the Shaggy Man up out in space, to just float in space and hopefully somewhere else in the universe away from the Earth. But with him doing that, you could technically say Aquaman was able to defeat the Shaggy Man, that Aquaman was able to handle this entire situation on his own without the help of Superman, Batman, the Flash, or anybody else from the league at all. And so it's a great job for Aquaman. But he was badly beaten by the creature. And so you have Aquaman just pass out right there in front of the crowd of people, but also his fellow commanders of the different forces of Atlantis as well. And they're freaking out because their king had just passed out and could be seriously injured to the point where he might die. Now, the fourth chapter is really more focusing on Mera, about the idea of her still going through the trials to basically see if she's worthy to become Queen of Atlantis alongside with Aquaman, her future husband. Now, with all that being said, when it comes to the trials, they go see an oracle to see the possible future for Atlantis, with Aquaman and Mera being the ones in charge. Now, when it comes to the oracle, she does at first see a great future, but then everything turns red and everything is being destroyed in this actual vision that she is seeing. And this is where we come to find out that she just saw a vision of the deluge. Now, we heard that name before because it belonged to a terrorist group that wants to remove Aquaman as the king of Atlantis because he does not believe in the old ways of Atlantis, but also they hate the surface world as well and will love the idea to get rid of the surface world. Except we kind of find out that the deluge is actually some kind of myth in Atlantis culture. And with this myth, it basically talks about the idea of everything dying across the world. And not just the countries of the surface world, but also Atlantis as well. Everything across the world is going to die. Now, we are not technically told, like, hey, what is actually the deluge? Like, what will happen that could possibly destroy the surface world and also Atlantis? All we know is that when it does happen, that event will be called the deluge. Now, when it comes to the mothers of the tower, they believe that Mera is going to be the reason why this actually comes to life, because she is a Zebul. And remember, all Zebuls were banished from Atlantis. And so they believe because she is a Zebul and she's back in Atlantis, it could bring the end to the entire world. Now for Mera, she says that is not fair at all. And the reason why, because one of the mothers of the tower is also a Zebul who's kind of hiding her heritage. And so is Mera saying, how do we know that she will not be the reason why everything ends across the world? But you have the mothers in the oracle say, no, because it has to be you, because you're the one who is marrying the king. And so with that being said, you have the mothers of the tower say, we cannot allow you to marry Aquaman. We cannot approve the idea of you two guys getting married, because if you do, it's going to bring everything to the end across the world. Now, when it comes to Mera, she knows that when it comes to Aquaman, he is going to basically go ahead and marry Mera no matter what. That he is not going to allow the mothers of the tower to tell him that he cannot marry the woman he loves so much. But the problem is, though, she's beginning to believe that what the mother said could possibly be true, that she could bring the end to the entire world. But there's also the idea that word can spread very easily about the idea of why the mothers of the tower did not approve Mera to be married to Aquaman. It could bring so many more problems for our hero. Now, when it comes to Mera, she does go back over to the lighthouse where Aquaman was raised at by his father. Now, when she does arrive, a letter was left behind by Joanna Stubbs. Now, remember, Joanna Stubbs is part of, I want to say it's Great Britain's Navy. Either way, she left a note wanting to talk to Aquaman or possibly Mera. Either way, you do have Mera say, you know what, let me go ahead and meet this Joanna person. Now, when it comes to Mera, she does go see Joanna. Now, we can tell that Joanna wanted to talk to Aquaman most likely, but either way, she got Mera and she is okay with that. Now, you do have the two ladies sit down, and this is where you actually have Joanna try to tell Mera about Nemo. And remember, Nemo is trying to take over the world, but they realize the only way to do that is to control the ocean, but they can't do that because of Atlantis. And so it's Black Manta who is currently in charge of Nemo, trying to get rid of Atlantis so that they'll be able to take over the ocean, to take over the world. And so this is her saying, I know who's trying to frame Atlantis. It's a group called Nemo. But unfortunately, before Joanna is able to tell more information, they are attacked by one of the members of Nemo. Now, when it comes to this battle, it does last for a couple of pages. It's your usual good old bad guy versus good guy fight. Now, here's the thing, because now this is Mera who has the ability to go back down to Atlantis to warn Atlantis about the idea of who have been framing Atlantis, which is Nemo. And so now our heroes can begin the process of trying to take down Nemo. Either way though, when it comes to Mera, at first she has to right now deal with this guy here. Now luckily for her, she does get some help from Joanna, and with the two ladies working together, they are able to take him out very quickly. But again, now Mera knows who has been trying to frame Atlantis. It is Nemo, this group that works for Black Manta. Now, the last page, we do see that Mera is finding out through Joanna what happened to Aquaman in the earlier chapters, that he was able to actually defeat the Shaggy Man, but of course, he was severely injured. And so with her finding out, she begins to worry about her supposed to be soon to be husband. And so now we're going to end on today's video on this note right here, kind of a cliffhanger with the idea of, will Aquaman survive? And if he does survive, how severe is the injuries? And what can our heroes do to stop Black Manta and Nemo? But with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.